Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Questbound Reader. And guys, welcome to the last video of this year. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and whatever you guys believe in. We wish that from our family, the Questbound family, to you guys. If you haven't already joined us, I'd invite you to subscribe and join the little community. I can't believe we're already 94 subscribers strong as of the time of recording this video. It's only been like 4 months, and it's actually really exciting for me to do this. This started off as a hobby. And I've gotten to really get to know some people and chat with you guys. And I'm very grateful for every single one of you. Invite your friends, invite your family, invite anybody you know that likes reading books or talking about books, and have them join the channel. We'll chat. I have no problem. Anyway, I wanted to dedicate this video to the favorite fantasy reads I've had, or favorite books I've read, not just fantasy, in 2023. And I'm going to kick things off with Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff. Guys, this book to me was amazing. I don't remember ever reading a vampire dark book ever in my life that I enjoyed until I read Empire of the Vampire. Gabriel De Leon, who is the main character, is definitely one of my favorite characters I've ever read in fantasy. This guy has experienced loss like no other, and he is, aside from being witty and kind of a douchebag, he is a, how do I say this? He is resilient. He is encouraging. He is um, relentless, and I admire him for that. He's definitely not one to give up, despite the tragic things that happened to him and his family. I really encourage you to read Empire of the Vampire if you haven't already. It is a great read. I think you guys will have a lot of fun. It's a very dark retelling of Gabriel's life from he's narrating his own life and the actions that have led him to become captured. The second book is coming out now in 2024, and it's going to be an amazing read. It's definitely one of my top books that I'm expecting to read in 2024. Anyway, that's that one. And guys, this list is in no particular order of which I liked more. These are just all my favorite reads. I did limit them to one book per series just so that I wouldn't have a lot of repeats. If not, I feel like The Wandering Inn would have been here like 5 times. Anyway, I digress. The next book is actually the first series I ever finished in my entire life, and that is the Cradle series by Will White. And the first one is The Unsold. This is the story of a young man who is the lowest of the lowest when it comes to power, and his climb from being a weak pushover to one of the strongest martial artists in the entire, I want to say, world. And he is amazing. He's an inspiration. He's a gentleman through and through, and I really, really, really loved his story. If you like martial arts, if you like a coming, not coming of age, but if you like a progression, it's one of the best progression fantasies I've read. And if you like the underdog coming from within and becoming a stronger, more confident person, then this book is definitely for you. Now, the ending of this series was a little for me, but overall, the entire Cradle series will have always a special place in my heart. That's why it's in the special section of the bookshelf, and it's actually the only series there so far. I'm waiting for The Wandering Inn to release their physical books. They haven't. I don't know why they did this to me, but anyway, segueing into The Wandering Inn, all the books, but the all the books are should be on this list. I loved every single one of them. I gave almost all of them a 5-star rating, but I will put the first one just because it was the introduction to the Wandering Inn world. I loved everything about the Wandering Inn. It is my favorite ongoing fantasy series in the world. And if you haven't already read it, I highly encourage you guys to read it. You guys are gonna fall in love with it, maybe. If you like progression fantasy, you're definitely going to like it at least. And so, what is The Wandering Inn about? It is a bunch of people from Earth that have stumbled onto this world by magic or by a summoning or by who knows how. And our main character, our initial main character, Erin Solstice, is she's an, I don't know how to describe her other than she's an airhead, a very well intentioned airhead, but an airhead none the least. And she just wants to survive. And she stumbles upon an inn and she stays there for refuge. She cleans it up and makes it her own. And she starts becoming a bartender in a world where there are classes based off of the things that you do, the tasks that you employ in your everyday life. And progresses. There are levels to this in this world. So the higher level you are, the stronger you are, the more proficient in a skill you become. Anyway, she starts off as a nobody, and she ends up being one of the more famous innkeepers in the entire country that or in the entire continent that she lives in. And I really encourage you guys to read this series. If the first book doesn't hit it for you, read the second one. The books get better and better, in my opinion, and better, and you have many multiple points of views that just intertwine and just beautifully. Pirate Abba, the author, is just masterful when it comes to tying in all these stories together. I personally love all of them. I know that some of you guys have commented that you've had some issues with some of the books. I get it. I get it. There are loose ends in some that I wish would be tied, but maybe if you read far into the series enough, you will see what I see in The Wandering Inn. Next, I wanted to switch our focus to one of the funniest books I've read in a long time, and that is the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. Our main character, Carl, is he's a human, and he is by luck outside at like 2 in the morning when a dungeon falls over every single thing that has a roof in the world. So a car, an apartment, a home, a shelter, anything that had a roof gets instantly crushed, and transformed into part of a dungeon that Carl then enters. And his goal, along with Princess Donut, the cat, his ex-girlfriend's cat, is to clear the dungeon one floor at a time. Now, Carl is, I don't know how to describe this, but an asshole. But he is a very well-intentioned asshole. And he is funny. His interactions with Princess Donut are hilarious. It is the stupidest, most laugh out loud book you'll probably read in a while at the same time having very high stakes. Um, I love everything about this book. I think the interactions between the characters are hilarious. I think Donut is I love Princess Donut the cat is has a very special place in my heart because she's like a baby, and Carl is trying to introduce her to the real world while living in a very dangerous area, which is the dungeon, which is literally trying to kill you. So yes, if you like another, this is kind of like a progression fantasy in my opinion as well. And I know that the past three have been progression fantasies, but yes, these three are. I love progression fantasy. Right? I don't know what to tell you guys. If you haven't figured that out by now, well, I love progression fantasy. It's probably one of my favorite sections of fantasy. I encourage you guys to recommend me any progression fantasies you might or may not that you might have liked, and tell me which ones you hated, so I stay away from them. Anyway, so yes, it's an amazing story. It's funny. The books are short; they're like 300-400 pages, and I've already read three of them. They're up here. You'll see a lot of empty spaces in the bookshelf. That's because I have all the books that I really liked right here next to me. So that's why. Anyway, let's move on to our next series, and this is the final book so far released, and that is Of War and Ruin by Ryan Cahill. This is the story of, gosh, how do I explain this without giving you too many spoilers? This is a story of brotherhood. This is a story of coming of age, of kind of progression, but not in the same way as you would get like levels or power ups or anything like that. But this is a story of a young trio of men who some get separated, coming of age and being introduced to magic, to dragons, to evil forces that are at play, trying to conquer uh, the good in the world, and how these three guys band together for the most part to overcome these forces. Now, there is a lot of loss, a lot of grief in these books, and a lot of happy moments too. So it's definitely a more serious book than the ones that we've just talked about, um, and I love it. I can't stop reading them. I can't wait for Cahill to release the next one. I've read every single one, literally every single one. They're like over here, right there. This is my section for the Bound and the Broken series. Every single novella that's been released and every single book except for The Ice, which is the next one that I have to get. I've read and I loved every single one. I you need to read the series if you haven't already. Not a lot of people are talking about the Bound and the Broken. You need to read it. If you haven't already read it, I don't know what you're doing with your life. This is a series that everybody should read if they're into fantasy, if they're into classic fantasy with a modern spin. The first book starts off a little slower, but then as the books progress, you get to hear more points of view, and you really do get a sense of who these characters are and what they're fighting for and what they believe in and why it's all worth all the wars that are going on. So I definitely recommend you guys to read this. Following this, I wanted to talk about one of my favorite books that I didn't think I was going to like nearly as much as I did. And this was definitely a 5-star review. And that is The Iron Prince. And this is part of the Warform series. I absolutely love this series. This is, yet again, a progression fantasy. But this one is different than all the other ones. Well, kind of different, because this one is not so much inherent powers or anything like that. It's there. It has to do a lot with technology, and these humans, right, have these bracelets that are equipped with them at all times, and only some humans get the ability or the honor of being selected to have a CAD. CAD. I've asked me what the acronym stands for. I'm gonna have to lie to you because I don't remember half of the acronyms in this series. Anyway, so these CADs are all different. They all have different ranks for endurance, speed, mobility, defense, and stuff like that. There's different types. There's like sabers, brawlers. There's the lances. There's I forget what they call them with the shield and the spears. Those guys. Anyway, and they all are ranked from F being the worst to S being the highest. And our main character is blessed with a cat that has everything F except for one thing in S, which is unheard of. It's never happened before out of the factory. So he is a very sick man who becomes, or a sick boy who becomes significantly healthier because the CADs change you at a molecular level. They fix illnesses in your body, they heal you, they make you taller, stronger, better. Yes, they are amazing. Now, this is a martial arts fight slash like battle school academia book, and it is amazing, right? If you like anything of what I just said, hopefully it made sense to you. But if you like any of that, then you're gonna like this book. Our main character is a pushover at the start of the book. He's very weak, and he is not accustomed to having things go well for him. And I think I relate with that. I think a lot of us can relate with him. And he's faced with many tough decisions until he realizes that he is significantly much more valuable than he thinks he is. He and him and his CAD make many friends, many enemies, and you're gonna feel rage for the things that happen to this boy. You're gonna feel like you want to jump in the book and punch these people in the face. Um, and nurture this kid because you want things to go well for him until they start going well for him, and then oh my gosh, then it's you feel. I laughed. I literally laughed when he started getting back at some of the people that bullied him. I was like, this is what you guys get. All right, this is, that's what you get. Anyways, I digress. Read this book. Read The Iron Prince, and there's 2 books out. The third one, I can't wait for the third one to be released. I feel like it's not going to be released anytime soon, which makes me sad. Sadness is overwhelming in that regard. But I really hope Bryce O'Connor, if you're hearing me, listening to this, release this next book, please, soon. But as long as it's the same quality as these 2 that you've put out already, I don't mind waiting for a bit. These books have been sensational. Anyway, going on to the next one is another progression fantasy that is Sufficiently Advanced Magic. Now, I was reluctant to start reading this series because I read some mixed reviews from some of you guys in Goodreads. I'm so happy that I read it. I can't wait to keep reading it. This is a story of magic, a story of coming of age, and a story of progression, and progression like no other. It is a very magical book. Pretty much there's this tower, and at the top of the tower there's a goddess, and if you climb all the way to the top of this tower and you clear every floor, then the goddess will grant you a boon, and that is whatever you want it to be. Now, everybody has a class here, and different classes have different, abilities. Some are more combat related, some are more geared toward building and designing magical equipment, and yada yada. Our main character, his whole family has been a combat family, and unfortunately, he is assigned in his trial at the tower a non-combatant ability. Now, he hates this because his parents are ashamed that he has this. And his whole purpose is to go into this tower and rescue his brother that went in years before him and never came back out. In the middle of this, he meets unlikely friends, makes acquaintances with people you wouldn't expect, and you get to see this character's ability to employ his intellect in the most creative possible ways. He is genuinely a smart guy, and you get to see that throughout this book, and I like that. I like having intelligent main characters. It's fun when you have main characters that are just like underdogs all the way through, but when you read of an intelligent main character, and you're like, oh man, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. He's just not strong enough to do what he wants, and I like that. That's like a bonus for me. So yes, I really recommend that. Now I want to talk to you about one of my favorite books. This is a book that I recommended on Matt's Fantasy Book Reviews as my favorite book released, published in 2023. And that is The Will of the Many by James Islington. This was a stunning book. I absolutely loved every single thing about this book. And this is a Roman inspired, I want to say dark academia um, fantasy book. I guess I'm going to leave it at that, just not to throw in so many extra descriptive words. Anyway, this book is great. Our main character comes from a family that was essentially wiped out once a new power came in. And the magic system that is employed here is amazing. Pretty much, you use the will of other people, forcibly or volunteered, to make yourself stronger. And the hierarchy for will use is amazing. This is a very unique magic system. I've never read of anything like this at all. So I highly encourage you guys to give this book a shot. I think you guys are going to absolutely love it. um, our main character goes to the school in order to get strong and to get revenge for all the bad things that happened to his family. And in here, he gets to visit his homeland, where he comes face to face with some of the people that used to know him. He was a prince, by the way. I didn't mention that his family were the rulers of the land, and he's a prince. So he was loved by many. He's young, so not many people remember him. But the few that do remember the love that they had for his family. Now, this book gets kind of dark, so I do recommend it. Just take it with a grain of salt when you go read it. Yeah, don't take some of the things personal. I think I took some of it personally. I loved it though, every single part of it. Um, and I think you will too. If you enjoy like Roman inspired books, that's definitely the vibe. That even the cover looked like, with the broken pillar. It's very Roman esque, in my opinion. And like I said, the magic system was just fantastic. I loved the world building. I think all these books had phenomenal world building, and I think that's one of the things that matters to me the most. Like, I like character progression. Obviously, I like to have good characters. I like to have a good plot, but I don't like the world to feel limited. Even in the books where they were just like, you have to clear a tower, and or like Dungeon Crawler Carl, where a whole book is like one level of a dungeon. The books never felt limited. Like the scope of everything felt greater than it was, and I think that's one of the things that I really attracts me to books. It's just I like seeing a world that I can imagine myself in, and I can imagine myself getting lost and exploring and trying to figure things out. And I think those things are what really make me feel at home with fantasy. Now, the last book I'm going to talk about, I don't have a physical copy. They're in back order. My copy gets here in February, which is crazy. Anyway, it is Empire of Silence, and that is my first ever not fantasy, sci-fi book, and this is by Christopher Rocchio. Rocchio. I'm gonna pretend like I said that right, just to go along with it. Anyway, this was a fantastic sci-fi book. I loved every single part of it. You get to talk about this character who is going from worlds to worlds, trying to escape the fate that his father has set before him, and through that, he encounters many people who he falls in love with. This book is very dark as well, but you get to see some hopes of humanity scattered throughout it. Anyway, Hadrian Marlowe, who I just actually released a review for this book, so check it out if you haven't. But anyway, Hadrian Marlowe, who is the main character of this book, he's a prince, supposed to be the rightful ruler of the empire that his dad has, and they are very rich, very wealthy, and they live for many years. Anyway, so Hadrian is under the impression that he's going to become the next ruler. But his father prefers his younger brother, even though he never admits it to him. His father then kind of sends him to a place where he never wanted to go to, which is part of the Chantry. I still can't pronounce that right, which are kind of like the religious folks. Think of like the Pope in the Vatican. And he pretty much sends him there. While Hadrian, all he wanted to do was explore the world and become an adventurer, and become a scholiast, which is a learned person who memorizes the history of the worlds and galaxies and beings that inhabit this world. So he runs away from home like any other typical person would do when faced with impossible decisions. He runs away and he actually gets stranded and abandoned in the world by the people that were going to take him there. And this is a story of how he grows to become the Sun Eater, the ender of an entire race. And this is narrated by him. And it is, I typically don't like books that the main character narrates their own life, with the exception of Empire of the Vampire and Empire of Silence. I guess it's an Empire thing. I think these two are masterful. This is probably one of my favorite books of 20. I would definitely put it in my top 5 favorite books of 2023 if I were to have ranked this in any series. And it's definitely one of my favorite books. It's in my top 10 favorite books of all time. And I being a sci-fi book, which is not my cup of tea, I definitely recommend this to you guys. Anyway, this has been a lot longer than our normal videos, but I wanted to talk about all these books and share my passion with you guys. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you stick around. I hope you have a lovely rest of the year. And I can't wait to get to you guys at the start of the year and talk to you guys about my TBR for 2024. There's 10 new series that I want to start for 2024. And man, are they going to be long and difficult for me to read. Anyway, I think at the time of recording this video, I'm reading the 11th Cycle, which is surely and slowly becoming one of my favorite books that I've read. But as of this time, I believe I made it to the 40 book cap for this year, which I know some of you guys are reading like 150 books, 100 books. I have no idea how you guys do that. I give you guys kudos. I know Matt from Matt's Fantasy Book Reviews, Patrick Leo, you guys read so much. I give you guys the utmost kudos. I don't know how you guys do it. I wish I were like you guys, that I could process that much. Maybe I'm just not smart or fast enough to read these books any faster. But 40 books is the most I've ever read in my entire life in a year, and it's exciting for me. My 2024 goal is to read at least 50, and that I feel like that's gonna be already hard enough because I feel like I read a lot this year. But you guys encourage me, and thank you all of my followers and all these people in the Questbound community. I really appreciate you guys. Again, I know I introduced myself at the start of this channel, but my name is Javi. That's my nickname, Javi. Feel free to call me Javi when you write in the comments. It's short for Javier. But thanks for being a part of this community. You guys have made this a very exciting and fun year with your contributions to books and whatnot. And I look forward to talking to you guys again. So stick around and let's grow together. Take care, guys.